What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. I want to go over some of the data points, what moved it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So SoFi went down 1.13%, 27.06 the low, 28.67 the high. So once again, SoFi really presents itself as one of the best stocks out there to buy the dip because it has absolutely phenomenal pushes higher, and a lot of that I think in reality stems from just during the pre-market you can't do any options, so big money waits until the market does open, they buy call options, brings up the stock price. It's a win-win to them at least. But earlier this morning, it was rather comical. So I did do a couple posts on social media and even in my pre-market video, like it was, all of this was comical on why the broader market was going down. So earlier this morning, we did have durable goods, GDP, and also initial jobless claims, all of which came in better than anticipated. So this is where the market psychology comes into play because of course, with good data such as this, in the eyes of Powell, does not justify rate cuts. So very premature to start already starting to, I guess, consider October cuts, but this did go down slightly. So 85.5% likelihood now of a 25 basis point cut for the October 29th meeting. So kind of comical. Some individuals are saying that despite everything, even the initial jobless claims coming in at 218 was still too high because of course Powell's most recent chat, he did really bring up and was more so still concerned with labor, but in reality, it's market's just funny overall. But you do start to see more and more fear starting to come and spread through the broader market. Aside from that, no official news from SoFi, no SEC filings or anything like that. Notice how I said official, only because there was one thing that came out on social media. And so ultimately, you had Zero Hash. So big news, Zero Hash has raised 104 million Series D2 led by IBKR, with participation from Morgan Stanley, SoFi, and Apollo. So D2, so it's private funding. There was no news about this whatsoever. And the reason why I know about this, not like I follow Zero Hash or anything, but it is because SoFi kind of reshared it and Anthony reposted it. So in reality, SoFi is doing some deals behind the scenes when they're not really announcing it. And Zero Hash, on a side note, if anyone doesn't know, they're kind of the foundation that a lot of brick and mortar banks and fintechs will use to integrate cryptocurrency in. From previous announcements, we do know that SoFi partnered with 𝗖𝗓𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧. So that's for their kind of blockchain to send money, and that's part of that PR. This came out 2023, so I don't really know how credible this is or if it's been updated or anything, but SoFi selects blockchain.com as its first digital asset partner. So again, I haven't really seen any updates from SoFi and blockchain together, but this is fresh news. So essentially, this again is another element that signals that SoFi is inches away from cryptocurrency. $1 million question is when, as I brought up a couple times back, SoFi is hiring a ton of crypto related positions, so it is going to be coming most likely in the next month, and Zero Hash probably will be getting their official news, or SoFi will announce some official news with Zero Hash. So that should really hype up investors quite significantly. SoFi shorts, let's go over shorts and what they did and all the fun jazz. So today they did return 493,000 shares, 9.3% of the free floats being shorted, works out to be 109.83 million shares overall being shorted. So I did bring this up vaguely in my pre-market video. So after hours yesterday, you had all the exchanges disclosing the true amount of shares being shorted. It is always delayed. So as of September the 14th, there was 107.6 million shares being shorted. So that does work out to be 9.14% of the free float. So ultimately, between August the 28th and September the 14th, shorts did increase roughly about 6.3-ish million shares more than what we thought. And a lot of that is just done on the dark pool. So dark pool is very anonymous, very difficult to track and so forth. So essentially shorts between, like I said, August 28th and September the 14th, that's where they did increase more than what we thought. But even if you kind of look here, didn't really do too much to the stock price. SoFi still kind of moved higher. So at the end of the day, a little bit higher in short interest, but I still do feel over the next couple months, most likely leading into their upcoming Q3 earnings, we'll be back at that 8% range. Cost to borrow average 0.85%, minimum being still positive. So now this is the 5th or possibly even the 6th consecutive day of that being positive. But looking at the options, today we did have 43 million in calls, 13 million in puts, and then 43% of all the options being done were bullish in nature. Coming from a bull standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be roughly around that $29 range by the end of tomorrow. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub roughly $27.50. And I think that's just people hedging based on, for instance, PCE. So PCE is going to be a big deal for tomorrow. And then technically, Trump did mention as well, he kind of tweeted after hours saying that we might be having a shutdown. So again, I think historically that never really comes to fruition, but even if it does, it's all about the length. If it's a long-term shutdown, then that would and could potentially affect GDP. But if it's just 1 or 2 days, I think it's not going to be that big of a deal. Be an optimum time to buy the dip, in my opinion. And with tomorrow being Friday, just take note of this. This is kind of the open interest. You have 16,000 at that 30, 8,000, 29.50, 7,000, 29, and so forth and so forth. So honestly, it's kind of a low week for the open interest, which is rather interesting. But these are all the transactions occurring on the secondary market. So still a lot of good transactions, kind of on the low end though. Good overall, like big money transactions, but frequency was definitely lower. Algos were the main culprit for today. So 12.7 million, 1.07, 2.2. So a lot of big transactions as per usual. And most likely, I've been saying this for the last several videos, you should see more of these transactions because we are nearing the end of Q3. So just be aware of that. These are all the transactions occurring on the dark pool. So this one stands out, a $53.6 million transaction. So as I've explained in the past, very difficult to tell what is buys and sells based on the dark pool because it's supposed to be anonymous. You can kind of look at some of the transactions before and after, and as well what happened at that time on the actual price. So before and after kind of stayed at 28.12 for the most part. Didn't really happen, not much activity after hours. So in my opinion, the fact that it happened at 28.12, it's very difficult to tell whether it's buys or sells, but given these spikes higher, I would assume that is a buy. So again, someone really wanted to get in, and 53.6 million is not chump change whatsoever. So with it closing at 28.12, it is now trading between this R3 and this R2. So 27.96 is going to be a strong support. Honestly, when SoFi went down, that didn't even phase. So I don't really consider that very strong support, but still 27.96 and then 26.54. Flip side, 30.25 is going to be on the table for the next target. No real analyst ratings today, no kind of articles or anything talking about it. As I mentioned, algorithmic trading was a little bit more active today, and you can see that based on this. So algos, I think, we're just feeding off of the fear, and they probably did attribute and set off a lot of stop losses first thing. That's why SoFi did have that push lower, but it did close slightly below that 10-day moving average. So shows a little bit more of a potential reversal. Although last time that did happen, that's what SoFi kind of got some good momentum and really started to move forward from here. So I wouldn't really consider and panic over today, but moral of the story, it's going to come down to the data tomorrow, in my opinion. So PCE is going to be a very big deal for SoFi and the broader market. So let me know your thoughts on SoFi. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, many of which have been absolutely on point. Worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. So link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.